Hi friends, my name is Mackenzie, also known as M to the Third, and I'm a knitter, illustrator, and natural dyer coming to you from Portland, Oregon. And today I have a slightly different video that I'm really excited about. So normally I have my podcast episodes where I talk about like what I'm currently making, and I came across another podcaster who did a fall wardrobe planning sort of idea video, and a lot of the sweaters that she picked were really popular designers like Caitlin Hunter and Andrea Mowry, and I just didn't feel personally very compelled by the decisions. It was very much a moment, and so I was like, well, what would I do and what would I do different? Because when I think of knitting stuff for myself, first of all, I am plus size, and so I have to make sure that the pattern is going to fit me and that I can knit it. I can do modifications, and I know how to, but there's something about just the principle of a design not being made for my size that I just feel like, why would I bother? So I'm going to be listing some sweaters that are size inclusive and talk about why I picked them and how they're going to fit into my wardrobe and how I'm going to style them. So yeah, that's kind of like what my idea was behind this video, and I hope that it gives you some excitement. Here in Portland today, it's beautiful outside. I have my little window open. The cat is hanging out by the door, staring outside. It's like, for those of you who are new here, I just moved from Boston, Massachusetts to Portland, Oregon, and I'm just like loving the lack of humidity. My hair isn't, but like in general, just like I'm so much more comfortable all the time. So yeah, I've just been really enjoying the sun. That being said, this weekend we really had our first very classic Pacific Northwest drizzle, overcast, chilly, and I made some like oatmeal cookies and made soup for dinner, and I was like, wow, I'm like definitely feeling the fall vibes. And that always, like when I get that first sort of like taste of fall weather, it definitely gets me inspired to start thinking about knitting. And like I do knit year round, and I knit quite a lot year round, but there's like a different kind of energy, I think, when we start thinking about like being kept warm, and whether that's for me knitting for myself or knitting for other people as like gifts. So yeah, I'm definitely like feeling my creative juices flowing, and I spent some time thinking about what I'm going to make, and I thought I would sort of share that process of like planning out my next steps of my wardrobe. So so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about wardrobe planning in general, because at this point I feel like I've been on that journey for a while. I do sew, but I just haven't prioritized it, I would say, for a number of reasons. I have started sort of in opposition to sewing, not opposition, but in addition to sewing, I guess, sort of buying pieces from slow fashion companies that make clothes in my size. These overalls that I'm wearing today are a really good example. I'll take some video later and talk about them. But so I've started building up these like foundational pieces, like linen pants, overalls, some dresses, and that doesn't mean that I don't also shop from some fast fashion places. Like one of my favorite places to go is Old Navy, because they have sort of like I don't want to keep saying foundational, because they have basics like t-shirts, and a lot of the time it's very easy to find cotton, not polyester, which can be hard at other fast fashion places. And they have my size, and I know that they have my size. Also, Old Navy just launched like a new campaign where like all of their women's clothes are in all of the sizes, and there's no price difference. So even though it's like, I do my best to not buy fast fashion, and sometimes I need just like a t-shirt or whatever, and I know that I'm wearing these pieces until they are worn out. I'm not buying stuff just to buy stuff. I'm buying like pieces that I know will work in my wardrobe, and wearing them and mending them if I need to until their time is done. I'm not just like flipping through pieces. And on top of that, like, I am not the sole reason that the planet is dying. And I think some people feel that that's a very pessimistic thing to say, but for me, it's sort of like a reassurance that, like, I'm doing my best as an individual person, and until, like, corporations change, like, stuff, it's just, our planet is going to heat up, and there's going to be more waste than there needs to be, and, like, I'm doing the best that I can. So, all of that to say is that's sort of where I acquire pieces for my wardrobe. Select slow fashion brands that have my size, where I'll get like a piece, and then I will get some fast fashion stuff, and I try when I'm going to fast fashion especially to get 100% cotton or just 100% natural materials. And by natural, like, that also includes for me rayon, linen, cotton. That's kind of like the three. I don't tend to find wool very often at those places. And then the last thing is by making stuff. So whether that's knitting or sewing. And like, I feel pretty good about like where my wardrobe is at, but I really like clothes and fashion, and so I am gonna be sort of like building it up and having fun with it. That's just, it's just what's gonna happen. So one of the ways that I decide what pieces I want has been by figuring out what silhouette I like. And so I kind of have, over the years, and like acknowledging the fact that bodies change, like I know that I like stuff to either have like a high waist silhouette or to have things kind of loose. But I like to make sure that my, I sort of have that high waist, how would I say? I sort of like to make sure that I have some sort of line at that high waist point, because it just feels more flattering to me. Like, I'm a big person, and I'm not like trying to be like, oh, look at how much this slims me down. Like, that's not the point. It's just that I know that, like, if that sort of line at my natural waist is distinguished, like, I find that I like the way that looks better. So the ways that I do that are by having high-waisted pants with a top, and then that creates that line, or like a long dress with like a cropped cardigan or jacket to also accentuate that, or like a shirt over top. So that's kind of like the main way. And like these overalls have actually been an interesting moment for me, because they're meant to be oversized for plus size folks, and plus size folks don't get the option a lot of the time to have things that are oversized, and so it throws, you know, every once in a while I get thrown for a loop by like trying something that's like kind of outside my comfort zone. And so I put these on and I was like, are these just like too big? And I was like looking at the photos and I'm like, no, they're supposed to be like that kind of like Japanese oversized look, but it's for a fat person, myself. And so I kind of have to get used to what that, you know, looks like on me and feels like on me. So, so yeah, I kind of have like the pieces that I know, or like the pieces that will go together with something that's already in my wardrobe, or pieces that have been in my wardrobe that sort of allow me to have that silhouette, and that's kind of like generally what I go for. So there's different ways of achieving that, like I said, but that's sort of like, I would say, encompasses most of my wardrobe, that they're either individually or together able to make that silhouette for me. So I have that, and then I also have color, which is a really important piece of it. So for me, I'm like definitely a fall baby. My birthday is in October. It's my favorite season for sure. I think a lot of knitters feel that way, but definitely is. And so my color palette is very like, I love chartreuse, I love mustards, I love orange, pink, like very much like the wall behind me is like indicative. And when I have worked at yarn and fabric stores in the past, you know, you can definitely see like the colors that I would gravitate towards, the colors that customers would come with would be like matching their outfit. Like we definitely all have our colors that we like, and I just happen to be lucky that like I also like wearing those colors. And so what I do is I kind of have these colors that I always gravitate towards, which is like this palette, and then I have colors that sort of go really well with my favorite colors. So like kind of like primary and secondary color associations, if you will. So that's like kind of this side. So a lot of these pieces I have like pops. These are like my pops of color. So like an accessory, like a hat or socks or whatever. And then this side is sort of like the bigger pieces that I have that I love. And so when I'm thinking about like what I need to buy or what I want to make next, I think about like, okay, like I bought these pants and I love them, but I don't really have anything right now that like I would see like a whole outfit as being. I have a lot of like black t-shirts with like white print on them, and that's, I always feel is a like cheat. Like when I can't think of anything else, I just pull out a black shirt and then I do that, but I'm always like, I can do better than this. So lately that's one of the things that I feel like I have been missing, has been like a top to go with like this, my overalls, or like some bright pants that I just bought, that isn't just like a black shirt. So that's like one of the pieces that I'm going to talk about in a second. Another piece that I feel like I have been missing as I've been like getting dressed, and especially as I've been getting used to like, you know, like the cold, cool mornings and evenings, but like the, you know, very comfortable middle of the day temperature, is like a cardigan that I can just like pull on and take off and kind of like leave in my office. And so this is something that I've actually been looking for a while, but have like, funny enough, been a little intimidated to make. So I didn't mention when I was like when I talked about how I sort of acquired pieces for my wardrobe, I did not mention the thrift store, and I'm sure some of you are like, wait, you don't go to the thrift store? And I actually find the thrift store really frustrating as a plus size person, because I kind of have these like things that I am looking for when I'm buying a piece of clothing or adding something to my wardrobe, which is like natural fibers. I really like the fit in a specific silhouette, and I find that thrift stores just, you know, there's a number of reasons. I could like link an article down below about like why plus sizes are so scarce in thrift stores, but yeah, that's kind of been my experience. I find it just very frustrating, especially if I go with someone who is like smaller and has like a ton of options. It's just like, okay, well, I'm done looking, like what next? That being said, every once in a while I do really get lucky, and one of those ways in Boston last winter was with this cardigan. So I was looking for something like this, and I was really debating knitting something like this. It has little pockets, it's 100% wool, and I like sort of like the perfect color for everything. I don't normally go for grays, but like I figured that this would go with a lot of things. And when I first got it, it had like a hard candy like melted into the pocket, very disappointing. And so I kind of like picked out as much as I could, and I gave it a nice wash, laid it flat to dry, and it also smelled when I got it. So and I was worried actually that that smell would not come out with a wash, but luckily it did, and so did the gross candy. So I did wear it quite a bit in Boston, and in wearing it I sort of learned what I want my sweater that I knit in a similar style to have that this one doesn't have. So the first thing is, like, when I put it on, there's like these just the way that the button band is sort of placed, there's like arrows, or there's like almost like extra triangles of fabric, so I really want it to just come straight down. The other thing is, because my hips are bigger than like my bust, when it's sitting on me, the button band doesn't go straight down, it curves out. So in the one that I want to make, I can add increases as I'm coming down the body to have it sit on me so that I have this opening in the middle be straight. And I'm not going to put buttons on it. I do like the pockets, but they could definitely be bigger. I don't tend to put pockets on my knits because I just feel like it gets stretched out and stuff. So that's debatable, but so I knew that this was a piece that I use a lot because I have an example of it in my wardrobe that would benefit from some design changes that I could easily implement. And I thought about, again, color and like what kind of color. I really like it being a dark color that goes with a lot of stuff, and you know, that I can just like pull on at any point with any outfit. So I really wanted it to be like purpley but like dark, and so I always start with my stash when I am going stash diving, and found this yarn that I've had, which I am currently knitting a shawl out of in a different color, and it's a lace weight, it's Issachar spinny, and I just like love this purple color. It's very me, it's heathered, so there's like gray tones in it, and I thought, okay, if I have a purple one, it will actually go with a lot of stuff, but if I make it even darker, it would go with even more. So I'm going to hold it double, as this pattern calls for, with a like black mohair, because the thought of knitting like a black cardigan in like fingering weight just sounds like the absolute worst. But I think if I'm doing it with the purple underneath, it won't be so bad. So the pattern that I'm going to end up using is called the Girlfriend's Cardigan by Anka. So that is not the most inclusive pattern. It does fit me into it, and I think I'm not making the absolute largest size, but maybe like the second to last one. So it's not like, it sort of hits all of my things that I want. There's a lot of cardigan patterns, but this one is like very simple. It's in garter, and I think it's just going to work really well. So that is the plan for that like piece that I feel like is missing for my wardrobe. I think it's going to be really nice, and I told myself that I could not cast it on. The yarn is bought. I mean, I have this one in my stash, but I bought the mohair, and I won't cast on until I finish the other two projects that I'm about to talk about. So I feel like that's very reasonable, and that's like kind of in line for my my fall, you know, FOs. So hopefully that'll be done at some point, but I'll keep you updated on it. In the meantime, it's like, maybe I'm like thinking, sometimes I'm like, I'm just like overthinking everything, but I think it'll be a really nice addition to my wardrobe. So that's one. The second thing that I was kind of alluding to earlier is like a top that would go with some brighter colored pants that I bought, something that could go under this that is not a black t-shirt. I also plan to wear these with like a black and white striped turtleneck that I have, but it's still a little bit too warm to wear that. So I was thinking about like what kind of shirt that could go with it to make this more interesting, to make me feel like I'm not just picking a black t-shirt out of my wardrobe just for something to, you know, pair with it. And I've had Jessie Mae Martinson's ripple crop top in my queue for forever, or in my library for forever. But I just never felt like I knew exactly what yarn to do with it. And earlier, if you watch my last podcast episode, which I'll link up here, you will have seen me sort of talking about why I decided to do this. Like, I wanted something slightly engaging that was like a feasible finish that like was an interesting yarn. And part of that was because I thought that that would fit with this like hole that I have in my wardrobe of like a shirt that's like kind of neutral, a little more interesting than neutral, that will go with a lot of stuff. So I picked up this Birch Hollow Fibers yarn in the color, I believe it's Chocolate Tree Bark, yeah, in her Sylvia sock. So I haven't wound this skein yet, but I'm using 2 skeins and doing helical knitting, which if you don't know what that is, I'll also link my video to that up here. And doing the ripple crop. So the funny thing about this pattern, so yeah, this, right? It's gonna be cute. But the funny thing is that it's all ribbed, so it's sort of like, it like sucks up. So to actually take like the proper measurement from the bottom to where I'm gonna start like the underarm, you have to stretch it out a lot. So like right now it looks pretty long, but then when I actually stretch out like how much it's gonna be when it blocks, it shrinks this way. So like I'm just gonna be knitting ribbing for forever is what it feels like. So yeah, it's definitely not long enough at this point, but I'm definitely making progress, and I really love the way that the yarn is working out. So this to go with my little cute overalls, what do you call it in Britain? Dungarees. I'm hip and with it. And I think that'll be super cute, but also with like some pairs of linen pants that I bought recently that I don't really have a lot of good options to match. But that also means I want it a little bit longer so that like my belly isn't showing. So yeah, I'm just taking all of that into consideration as I work on it. And yeah, I'm really enjoying actually doing a shit ton of ribbing, even though it's taking a long time and it's in fingering weight. But I know that it's going to be very wearable, and I can't wait to wear it. So this is one of the ones that I said I had to finish before I cast on the cardigan. So both of those definitely fit into my color palette, fill a hole, and are both wool, so they're going to be like part of that collection of fibers that I really like. And yeah, so I'm excited about those. The last piece of this like fall wardrobe plan is something that I've been working on since last fall. Not sure exactly how long I've been working on it, but I've talked about it a lot on previous podcast episodes, and it is the Stockbridge cardigan by Isolde. So this is a crew neck cardigan, and it's in one of my favorite colors ever, which is basically a combination of like chartreuse and mustard. So, I mean, I'm pretty far on this, to be honest. But it is in fingering weight, Quince & Co. And I've also talked about how I am trying not to encourage people to shop with Quince & Co. for a number of reasons. I've linked in a previous podcast episode. But if you really love this color and are looking and you're like, oh my god, I need something in that color in my wardrobe, O Wool has like a really similar color and their yarns are amazing. So I'll link that down below with everything. So yeah, I've got this like crew neck cardigan. I mean, really, I'm like really far in it. I need to just hunker down over a weekend and work on it. So yeah, this definitely also fills a hole in my wardrobe. I actually had a cardigan, sorry, the airplane. So I know that this will get a lot of use in my wardrobe because I had a cardigan in this exact color that it got too small. And it was from Target, and every once in a while I'll like see someone who has the same cardigan and like has had it in their closet for forever. Like I had mended little patches onto it, and I really miss it. And I knew that I wanted to recreate a very simple cardigan, you know, in that color. And then when I saw the Quince & Co. honey color, I was like, oh, that's it. I'm gonna do it. So it took me many years to actually make the purchase and be like, I'm gonna make a stockinette crew neck cardigan in fingering weight in this color that I love. But this can go over like these overalls. It can go over a bunch of different types of dresses that I have, all in this like color palette that I've talked about, so it'll all go together. So this is part of my fall knitting plans, even though it's mostly finished. I just gotta actually finish it, you know what I mean? So yeah, this is definitely doable. Maybe now that I've taken it out and looked at it and remembered how far I've gotten, I'll be a little more inspired to finish it off, because I think it's going to get a lot of wear. Yeah, so the reason I sort of wanted to do this video was because I'm not sure, like I personally don't find it helpful when people are like, these are the sweaters to knit this season, because I'm thinking about a sustainable long-term wardrobe that hopefully the pieces aren't going to be phased out unless they are falling apart and like unwearable. And that's really been my shift of focus. And I think, you know, recognizing that we're making our own clothes and we're buying pieces that are going to last a long time. And it can be fun, they can be colorful, and we can also be intentional about what we're bringing into our closets, and, you know, making sure that they're sort of like hitting all of these boxes, and that that's not impossible and overwhelming. So I hope by sort of like taking you through my planning process, it helps you sort of have the confidence to do it yourself. And yeah, I really enjoyed sort of thinking about it and also like rationalizing my thoughts, because sometimes, you know, you're like, oh, this and this and this is what I want to make, and then be like, but why? Why do we want to make that? So yeah, I hope that this was as fun for you as me, and I really want to hear what you're planning on making this fall. So leave a comment down below, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.